joining us today. You are here, obviously, Bridging Voice, building confidence using your AAC voice in public. Today is May 21st, and we are absolutely delighted to have Miss Annie here with us today to talk about ways to build your confidence using your voice in public, on Zoom sessions, on anywhere you could really use your voice. Next slide, Annie.
To practice that before.
Yeah, good thing to practice. All right. So most of you know who we are, but just in case you don't, you're joining us for the first time. We are Bridging Voice. We are a very small but absolutely mighty team. Six speech pathologists. We're growing like crazy, and occupational therapists. We have two amazing programmers. And of course, our amazing leader is here with us today as well. We have assisted over 2,600 people with ALS since 2019, and that number is just growing. We've assisted people in 49 states. We're still missing North Dakota. So, North Dakota, we would love a chance to assist you, and over 22 countries. We specialize in customizations, innovations, making sure that you know all about innovations as well as creating our own, mentorship to other speech pathologists or allied professionals, education as well. This is our education. And then also we have two state initiatives, Maryland and New Jersey, where we help to provide services. And here's the important part is our services are always free. So if you need assistance with anything related to communication or technology along your ALS journey, please, we would love to assist you.
All right.
All right,
So
take it away.
I will. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Roach. I am one of the speech pathologists on the Bridging Voice team. I am so glad that you all could be here today and join us for this topic. So I just wanted to go over what we are going over today. So first, we're going to discuss why. Why should you use your AAC voice, your speech generating device in public? We're also going to be talking about what your options are for your voice, where you should use your voice or can use your voice, and how. What are the tips and tricks to make you more successful and more confident in doing this? So let's get started here. So why? Why should you use this AAC voice, these speech generating devices? Well, the goal of this technology is for you to be able to say what you want to say, when you want to say it, and how. Advances in technology have really greatly improved the functionality and the ease of use of this technology. We have more options than ever, easier than ever, so it's a great time to do it. But more importantly, what you have to say matters. How you're saying these things may have changed, right? I don't want to minimize what it is to lose your natural voice. And I can only imagine what that feels like. And people have shared with us over the years what a tremendous loss it is. But we really hope that today gives you some more confidence to use those alternative ways to communicate because your opinions, your thoughts, your ideas matter more than ever. Your unique perspective and what you're going through and what you have to share is so valuable, and the world is really only better with your voice in it. So, we want you to just feel confident and feel ready to speak independently so that you can always contribute, create, do whatever you want to do with your voice there. All right. So, what can your voice sound like? This is one of the really exciting advances in technology that we've seen in the last few years. A voice is such a unique and important part of your speaking. And many users tell us that they want natural sounding voices and don't want to sound like a computer. And while voices definitely still have some room for improvement on that front, they are really greatly improved, and we really have so many options that we can go through with you so you can find the voice that you feel most comfortable with. And here we have listed a handful of the most popular choices. So the first group that I have listed here are personal voices, and those are done with voice banking, which a lot of you are familiar with, or also can be done with an artificial intelligence clone, an AI clone. Nachum gave a great presentation about that a couple weeks ago, so we'll drop that in the chat if you missed that and you want to learn more about how you could use that. So I'm going to play an example of my banked voice, so you can hear how similar you can sound here.
Does anyone have any tips for looking for a new doctor? I'm not really happy with my provider lately. I would like to work with someone that offers telehealth appointments.
And while it does still sound a little bit synthesized, it sounds more like me than any of the voices that are built into the app. So a personal banked voice is a very popular choice that many people use. Um, the next group of voices we have listed are generic voices. So those are just stock voices that are available. Apple has them built in, Google has them built in. Google has an online version as well. The Windows-based and iOS-based communication softwares all have voices that you can choose from, or there's the option to download or use online an AI voice as well. Um, Again, these voices can be used in all different platforms and integrated in different ways. The AI voices tend to have the most natural sound to them. So I'm going to play now an example for you, that same sentence that I just said, but with one of the AI voices, a generic AI voice.
Does anyone have any tips for looking for a new doctor? I'm not really happy with my provider lately. I would like to work with someone who offers telehealth appointments.
So just to give you some ideas of what your voice can sound like and how it can sound really more like you want it to there. Another important consideration for the voice is if you are going to be using an installed voice. So a banked voice like my voice that I have from VoiceKeeper, a generic voice that's in the communication software, those are installed in your system and they produce immediate output, versus an online voice like the AI clone or one of the Google Translate voices. Those voices have a little bit of a delay because the voice is going out to the server and coming back in. So that's just something you want to think about too, if you want immediate output or if you're okay with a little bit of a delay and then managing that delay. So your voice can really sound better than ever. It's a really personal decision, but you want to consider, who you're speaking with, where you're speaking, and helping you choose the voice. And you can go between voices, and that's something that we can help you with as well. Okay, so now we know what our voice can sound like. Let's talk about where can you use that voice. And really, the answer is anywhere you want, right? Anywhere your heart desires. Your voice can and should be used everywhere, anywhere, any situation that you feel comfortable in. And we just want to give you some examples of what our clients are actually doing with their voices. So, some clients we have are actually currently hosting podcasts. We have clients giving toasts at family weddings. We've helped clients so that they can set up their software to give speeches and presentations at work, accept awards. We also recently had a client who used their system to defend their grad school dissertation. So really the possibilities are endless. And while these big platforms are really cool and really important, we don't want to minimize how equally important the everyday public speaking is, right? So, talking with your friends, going to book club, participating in your medical appointments, those are really, really valuable. And you don't have to just be giving speeches for this presentation to benefit you. Um, I love this picture here of Steve Gleason. This is when he is accepting his Congressional Gold Medal. And while I think we can all agree that Steve is an exceptional human, the tools that he's using to give this speech are nothing crazy. There's some things, they are all things that you have access to as well, and things that you can do. So let's talk about how we make these tools work best. My clicks here. Speaking of preparing, so preparation, right? My parents used to always say to me, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail, which was very annoying to me as a young kid. But the older and wiser I become, the more I recognize the value in this statement. And that certainly applies to speaking in public with your AAC system. Preparation is your key to feeling confident and to succeeding. And so there are 3 areas that we want to cover today. So the first are settings that you would apply to your voice, tricks for setting up your content of your message, and tricks and tips for making sure that the audio integrates. So the voice output from your system to who you're speaking to there. All right, so now you've chosen your voice, right? But what we want to then also review is your speaking content for unique pronunciations. So names of people, medications, acronyms, or abbreviations are some key considerations of words to test and check the pronunciation. So for example, and we'll see this in a minute, but many programs may take the acronym ALS and say it as ALS. Or at our last presentation, we had a nice little discussion about the best way to type Nachum into a communication device so that it doesn't say Nachum or Nacho. We'll see that as well. So a trick can be to write the word phonetically, write it as it sounds rather than how it's spelled. Or some of the softwares also are, I'm sorry, many softwares often a pronunciation exception. So you can tell it like, this is how it's spelled, but this is how I want you to say it. So that's really important to know. In addition to the pronunciations, you want to be mindful of the rate. How fast or slow is your voice speaking? And oftentimes, slowing down a little bit is a really powerful change and helps make your presentation, your speech, more intelligible to your listener. It can be more effective than turning the volume up in some cases. So checking your rate is always really good. And this is usually done within the settings of the software. If you're having trouble finding these settings or not sure how to toggle between them, please reach out. That's what we're here to do. Each program is a little bit different, but we can help you through that. So here I have a quick video that's going to demonstrate the differences with rate and pronunciation. This is the speech assistant application with one of the generic voices.
Bridging Voice is a nonprofit organization which works with people with ALS to assist in their communication and technology needs. Nachum Lehman is our technical director.
So here you see that ALS was changed to ALS, Nachum was changed to Nachum, and this is just the standard rate of speech. So I'm going to go, you'll see this, I'll go into the settings and slow it down a little bit, and then I'm going to use, whoops, one back, two back, use the second button, which has the ALS spelled in all capitals, and then has the Nachum written phonetically. Sorry, I'll have to start
Bridging
that
Voice
over.
is a nonprofit organization which works with people with ALS to assist in their communication and technology needs. Nachum Lehman is our technical director.
So there you go in the settings. Slow down the rate. Use my second
Bridging
message
Voice is a
button.
nonprofit organization which works with people with ALS to assist in their communication and technology needs. Nachum Lehman is our technical director.
So Nahum's still not perfect, but definitely better. I think that rate a little bit slower is also very helpful there. So just a quick example, and again, this can be done on any of the communication programs. Okay, so you have your voice ready, you have your pronunciations and spelling all checked, but now how do you save all of that, right? Where does that all go? We have found many people use pre-programmed responses, right? So that's just a way to help keep you more efficient and again, be prepared and confident in delivering your messages. We almost always recommend programs that allow you to pre-program buttons, and you can often categorize these buttons so that you can sort through your content easily. So that refers to all that message buttons there. And within the message buttons, sometimes it can be really helpful to add some quick comments or continuers so you can quickly agree or disagree, or you can let somebody know, hold on, I want to add to that. Wait a second, let me write you something new. So that's a really important point that I'd like everyone to consider. And we'll see that later. And then the next part, which is found on a lot of the Windows-based communication software, is the ability to use something called text files. And that will let you import or write longer content, more like a speech. It looks like a Word document, but then it gives you audio controls for the presentation mode. And we'll take a look at that. And then a final consideration is integrating Chat GPT into your communication software and into your writing. So what this can do is can help you to produce a more complete or robust thought, and then you can edit it to make sure that it's really what you want to say. But this can be a really good energy conservation strategy. So for example, I have a client who she uses the Chat GPT to help describe her struggles with ALS. And then she edits the message and saves it, and then she uses it later in her support group conversations. So if you're interested in that, we will drop the links in the chat so that you can see it in action, and then you can also reach out to us if you'd like to try it there. All right, so let's look here. This is an example of the message buttons that I was just talking about. So we see speech assistant on the left, grid 3 on the right. In the grid 3 one, for example, I have programmed some phrases like ask me one question at a time, hold on, let me type something about this. I'd like my spouse to elaborate. That's fine, that's an issue, I'm very concerned. And then I have my specific messages in the middle there. So this is just one way that it can be organized. There's no right or wrong way. It's just so that you can find your content easily and quickly get your message across. On this next slide, I'm highlighting where those text files can be found, those longer documents. So in Communicator 5, it's within text files and then presentation mode. And then in Grid 3, it's currently built in Alpha Core and in the documents section, and we'll review both. So here's a picture of the Communicator 5 text files where you have you'll see the content in the middle, all that text, and then the buttons around the side are the speaking controls. So you can speak one sentence at a time, you can speak a paragraph at a time, or you can speak the entire message at once, and you can stop and start it. Here I have a video that I'd like to show you of Margie. She's one of our dear clients, and she uses Communicator 5 text files to write sermons for her church. She uses a combination of punctuation and pauses and to slow down, and she uses her a cappella voice, and she uses presentation mode and speaks everything at one time. So here is a clip of that.
I am the first to admit that I am far from perfect, and so is Butch, but together we are perfect for each other. Sounds corny, but it's true. One of the biggest issues we have had to wrestle is the lack of time we have had together. Well, I am here to tell you, be careful what you ask for. Now here we are, together 24/7, 365. This
So Margie is awesome. She does a great job preparing her content, and she presents really often at her church. So thank you, Margie, for letting us share that with everybody. In the next slide here, this is what the documents section in grid 3 looks like. So you see on the left your list of documents, and on the right a preview of the document. When you go into edit mode, you will get all of the audio controls for speaking it out. So I have a video of that we will look at now. So you'll see the green highlight, the green dwell will pop up in a second. I'm using a mouse, but this works with eyes. So you can go to editing, and then the white buttons, you can move the cursor around, and the white buttons give you
Thanks very much for inviting me here today.
So there's a sentence at a time.
I am so glad to have the opportunity to share my experience with you. I first became interested in speech-language pathology when I was applying to college. My pediatrician told me to check out the field, and I began observing clinicians in different work settings. I loved the opportunity that speech therapists have to improve quality of life through improving communication.
And so you may also have noticed that I paused. I clicked the red pause button. Margie does this when she presents as well. Oh, sorry, I don't know how that came up. But Margie will pause her content, pause her eye gaze, I'm sorry, so that she's not accidentally clicking on things while she goes through them. So adding a pause button can be very helpful if you're using an alternative access. All right. So in addition to organizing your content, right, saving it, putting it in a way that you can access it, there are some customizations that you can do to improve the quality of the output. Pause. So the first thing I want to highlight are pauses. Pauses can be super helpful in helping your speech to be more natural sounding, helping your listener to understand your message. And there are a couple ways to do that. So in Communicator, for example, you can use a group of 3 commas. Multiple groups of 3 commas will increase the pause. Groups of commas also work in grid 3. In Speech Assistant now, for example, they have a pause code you can build in the AI clones, they have pause codes. So there's a couple different ways to do it, but it's really helpful. Another important consideration for pauses is just adding punctuation. That's a really simple, effective way to slow things down and make your message more clear. So you want to be sure that you are adding periods here and there, question marks. They won't really change the inflection that much, but again, that pause really helps. The next consideration is intonation and stress on different sounds. So those installed voices that we talked about, there's not a whole lot that we can do there. But if that's something that you really want in your public speaking voice, the Google voices and the AI voices work really nicely with that. So I'm going to play a clip for you from Trinity's presentation, which uses the Google Translate codes to give some different emotion to voice. If you're interested in this, please reach out to us. We can help you set it up. And we'll also drop the link for Trinity's training that she did about this topic. It's really awesome to watch. So go ahead and take a listen. It's going to take a few seconds to kick on.
I love the way these new emotions make my voice sound. I can sound sassy, or I can convey my sympathies. I am so glad you came to talk to me.
So that's using some different translate codes with the Google voice, but it makes a really big difference in the intonation and stress, and it sounds much more natural there. So again, reach out to us. Um, the last consideration is adding sound files into your content. The sound files add a lot of interest, again, some natural quality to it. We laugh, we cough, we clear our throat when we're speaking, right? And so there are a couple ways that this can be done. We can download sounds and integrate them into your program. And then also, if you're using a generic a cappella voice, so I know a lot of times we think a cappella, personal voice, banked voice, but a cappella does also produce generic voices like Ryan and Will, for example. If you look in the communication softwares, are a cappella voices, and they use something called voice smileys, which again are codes, but the code translates into a sound. And so in this next video slide here, I have a video that's going to show using the voice smileys. They look like a code at the beginning, the 3 commas to create a pause, and downloaded sounds. So just to kind of roll it all into one, and hopefully make my joke that I tell much funnier. So here, I'm going to pause it for a second. Right at the front, you'll see that pound sign, and then the throat code, that's for a throat clear. You'll see the sheep code, that's for a sheep sound. And then we have this joke and laugh button, and those are downloaded sounds that are saved.
I'd like to tell a joke. What is a sheep's favorite swimming stroke? The back stroke.
So my 5-year-old thought this was pretty good. And then you can definitely add the joke sound and the laugh if you want to make sure you get the laugh there too. So that's just a nice way to integrate a bunch of little things to hopefully make your what you're saying more how you want it to sound here. Okay, so once you have all your content exactly as you'd like it, we also want to think about how do you make sure that your message is heard, right? So much of our interaction is online now, so I wanted to specifically highlight the best way to share your messages if you're speaking online, like in a Zoom or Teams, something like that. So a really important consideration is that if you're running Zoom or Teams on a Windows speech generating device like a Tobii i13 or a GridPad, using the Zoom plus the communication software plus something like an eye tracker can really weigh on the device. It can really slow things down. And so what you might want to consider is running or doing the Zoom on a second device, and then doing all of your audio and your speaking on your communication device. So here we have pictured, for example, a gentleman who he uses his Tobii for his communication, and then he has his phone mounted right next to his Tobii, and he uses that for things like Zoom or telehealth meetings. If you are doing your audio on the same device and as you are the online meeting, you can test out sharing your audio with the share screen feature. And then you, instead of sharing screen, share audio only. That's an option. Or you can, there are other controls that you can play with, and we could talk through those and see what works for your situation. On iOS devices, you can often integrate the voice into the call depending on which program you're using. So again, we can help you sort through that. But another just basic, really important consideration is knowing where your audio controls are for your software and moving them if they're hard to find, or customizing them if you want to use a certain voice in a certain time, a certain rate, a certain volume. And that's something that we are happy to help you with too. For in-person speaking, a big tip is just making sure that the speaker is oriented to your audience. It sounds simple, but it makes a big difference. For devices that don't have as much audio power, you might want to add a Bluetooth speaker. Here, for example, we have pictured the Knox Gear, and that is a speaker that you can clip on, as you see in the picture, and then that serves two purposes, actually. It increases the volume, and then it also draws the listener's attention to you because the audio is coming from you versus your computer. If you are using your system plus a microphone, you want to test that out. And again, test the placement of the microphone. And last week, actually, I was at a conference where 50% of the speakers were AAC users, and they were able to plug directly into the plug their systems, both iPads, Windows-based devices, directly into the sound system at the hotel where the conference was, and it played the audio beautifully through the conference hall. So testing and being prepared with the microphone is great. And again, just don't forget about those audio controls here. All right. And so then, I mean, who better to say it than somebody who's actually living it and doing it, right? So I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to turn it over to Sean Sexton, and he is going to give us his tips and tricks and show us some features of his communication program that he uses. For those of you who don't know Sean, he is an amazing guy. He does amazing things with his technology and amazing things to advance technology for people with ALS. And so we're so glad that he's here. So I'm going to stop my share, and then Sean, I will let you go ahead and take over.
Another helpful feature is see-through, which allows you to see. Another helpful feature is see-through. Another helpful feature is see-through, which allows you to see what is in front of you. Can you hear me okay? I have to move the Zoom thumbnail. Give me a second, please.
Thanks, Sean. No problem.
Hi, my name is Sean Sexton, and I have been using iGaze for 8 years. I am totally paralyzed by ALS, but iGaze enables me to communicate and do everything else that is possible with a computer. I particularly enjoy using the TD Pilot, and I think TD Talk 2.0 is really great. TD Talk is also available for the iSeries devices. I will show a few of my favorite features that are particularly useful out in the world. The first is quick messages. There are 4 quick messages on the main screen, and you can set up 3 additional screens per topic of pre-programmed messages. I use multiple topics, and topics are very helpful for different common situations. For example, at home, doctor appointments, and social situations. Hi, how are you today? I am doing well today. This is a great event. It's great to see you.
And there's Sean showing the edit function.
I can type easily. I also really like having a second message window if I get interrupted. Toby Dynavox calls the second message window the chat window. Another helpful feature is see-through, which allows you to see what is in front of you while using TD Talk. I am particularly fond of this in social situations, and because I suggested this feature.
And I'm in Sean's way again. So it's going to drag me out.
It's great to see who you are talking to. TD Talk supports many voices, including custom voices. It supports many languages, and you can quickly switch keyboards if you speak multiple languages. And of course you can tune dwell times and word prediction. You can even save your settings and history to your Tobii Dynavox account. I am happy to answer questions about the TD Pilot. It's a great platform with access to a lot of apps. I also use Windows and TD Control and Communicator 5, but I use the TD Pilot the most, including to drive my wheelchair. I hope this brief tour was useful. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. That is so helpful to see. I love seeing the pilot in action. It's such a great use of stored phrases and toggling to the keyboard and all the features. So thank you. That was great. Sean is totally the pilot expert too. So thank you, Sean. And then I also, in my preparation, tapped Charlie Wren, who is on the call too. And I'm stealing this from one of our emails back and forth about the exchange. And Charlie shared that the biggest thing about public speaking is to have confidence. Speak as if you know what you're talking about. LOL. So I channeled that today. Thank you, Charlie. And he also says, do your research beforehand and prepare. So we've got two experts sharing their most important advice with us, and we can't thank you guys enough there. So just a quick recap. Thank you so much for joining us for this today. And we just really want you to know that what you have to say matters. Maybe it's changed how you're saying it, but please don't stop saying things. What you have to say matters, okay? You can and you should use your voice anywhere, everywhere. There shouldn't be a limit to this. And we also just hope that today we shared some helpful and practical tips and tricks so you could plan ahead and prepare to feel more confident in your using your voice publicly. If you are thinking, where do I get started? How do I do this? I'm running into this roadblock. Please reach out. That's what we're here for. We love working with you to come up with a solution for your unique situation. And yeah, we just hope today was helpful. So thank you so much. And now we'll turn it over to some questions. And I'll stop my share too.
All right, I am going to jump in here for just a quick minute to do a couple of housekeeping things.
Oops, thank you.
First thing, that's okay, you're good. First thing I want to do is I want to provide you with the attendance. So if you would like to get a professional development certificate, please feel free to attest for your attendance today, although we would love for you to stay through our question and answer period. So let me go ahead and put that right here. All right, go ahead and fill out your attendance form and you will get that. So now we want to open it up for question and answer. Please feel free to ask, answer any way that you see fit. If someone asks a question and you think you have something amazing to share, we would love for you to share that with us. You can turn on your microphone or use the Q&A box, either one, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to kick it off with the first question, Annie, that was asked. So the first question is how did you get those recordings like the cough and the laugh to work?
Good questions. So the cough was one of those a cappella vocal smileys. So the trick with that is you have to be using an a cappella voice, and those voices are listed on the a cappella website, and then they show you which codes you can use. Um, if you're not using an a cappella voice, which is like the laugh, what you can do is download a sound, or like the my ching song for the joke. You download the song, and then you, for the button action, instead of having it speak the label, you have it play the recorded sound. So those can be any sounds that you want. And those are really fun. I think there's a lot of options there for what you can integrate.
All right. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Or would you like to share some of your tricks and tips that you have used for improving your speech or using your speech out in public, whatever you found that worked best for you? I have one tip that I love to share is I really like to encourage that before people go to either a doctor's appointment, whether it be virtual or in person, that as they're kind of like leading up to that doctor's appointment or the clinic visit, that they save their questions that they may have, and being able to save them either as a pre-stored phrase works really well because then you can get rid of them super easy, but I really love to encourage people to save those questions. Number one, so you don't forget what you want to talk about, because as we all know, clinic visits can be very long and overwhelming and tiring. But then number two, then you can just grab that message and be able to ask it. And you could do a combination. If you still have your speech, you can use your speech for kind of that social interaction or share, and then be able to, save your energy for being able just to ask a question. All right.
And I also think like for a visit like that, you can, and this kind of gets at what Naka, a little bit too of what Nakam's saying, where you can have a button that speaks a message, like hold on, let me type it, and it doesn't write that text into your message window. So it doesn't disrupt what you're working on. So if somebody's not listening or they're badgering you with questions, you can say like, hold on a second while still working on your content. Kind of like what Sean showed us too with the flipping between. Um, and then Nahum also said in regard to the sound that playing a laugh or a cough, you can assign it so that when you write haha, it plays a great big laugh recorded sound. It doesn't have to always just be a button there.
Clint just shared a great solution that he uses. So thank you, Clint, for sharing. He said that he's learning to spell names phonetically, and then also needing to rearrange a question so that it actually sounds like a question versus a statement.
That's a great tip.
And in Annie's discussion earlier about using pronunciation, something cool about with the idea of the pronunciation, it's you wouldn't want to use pronunciation just as though grammatically you were writing it. You actually want to use the pronunciation to help change the way that it sounds. So you may have a period in the middle of a sentence because what you're doing is that you're just creating a little pause in your, just like there. You're creating a little pause, period, right in the middle of your sentence. Because remember, no one's going to actually see that punctuation. It just changes the way that it sounds.
Nahum also had a great question and he directed it at Sean or Charlie, but anybody can chime in on what the main challenge is when speaking in public. If anyone wants to chime in on that.
You see, we just put you on the spot. So what's the
Yes.
main challenge with you being able to speak in public right now for the rest of you who aren't answering us? We would love to know what it is. What is your challenge right now with responding? I see some eyes moving. That means I'm getting some responses. Who's going to break the ice and tell us? Clinicians, also a question for you. What's the main challenge to communicating with your clients with ALS in a therapy session? What's your main challenge? There's lots of clinicians on here. So as we're waiting, and obviously our team has worked with a lot of people with ALS, so we learn. In fact, if you can look at Charlie right now, Charlie, you can see Charlie's eyes moving about the screen. So I know that Charlie is writing. But for the rest of you, do you guys have a button to say, hold on, I'm typing a message? Or do you have
Charlie
another
wrote an
way?
answer. Charlie wrote an answer in the chat.
Charlie says, falling behind the conversation. The listener often forgets the topic before I can respond.
That's Clint.
I know
Oh,
the
that's Clint.
CW and both red. That was double. Same initials,
Yeah,
same
okay,
color.
sorry. Yeah, okay, that was Clint. So Clint says falling behind the conversation. And the listener often forgets what you were even talking about and they already moved on. Okay. Charlie says, my greatest challenge is having the questions soon enough to answer the questions properly. Here we go. John says, my challenge is using my voice since I couldn't bank it, but working on the AI has the biggest things to prepare and practice. Don't let people dismiss you. That's
I
right.
love that. Yeah, and at that conference that I went to where the speakers half used AAC, they gave a etiquette rule right away at the beginning of the conference. Like, it's going to take us a second. Hold on, embrace the silence, take a pause, take a deep breath. And I thought that was awesome. Just owning it and saying like, yeah, but you just have to wait. And everybody did. It was great.
Which is so hard, especially when you're in a room with a lot of people and there's multiple conversations going on. That's really hard, as well as
Mhm.
being in medical appointments when people are hurried. I mean, we all know that, like, that what we used to have a half an hour with our doctor, and now we have 15 minutes with our doctor. So being able to respond in that tiny little bit is oftentimes challenging. Does anybody else have another question or statement? Question that I have is, please bring forward your question, but one of the things I have is if you don't have a button that says, hold on, I'm typing, what other strategies are you using? So we've had some of our clients have used what's called a Luxifor flag, which is an LED flag. I actually have one here. It's a tiny little LED flag that you plug into your communication device with a USB cord. Um, and it sticks right onto the top of your machine. I just happen to have a Toby that I'm working on right here, so it can stick right here, and you could turn a light on to let someone know that you're typing. What other strategies do people have?
Okay, and in the chat, Sean said, beware of the serial talkers. And Charlie shared, another problem is being heard. Your device is loud enough at home, but not in public. It's not loud enough. Definitely a consideration there. And Lynn says, very few conferences allow enough time at the end of the session. Yes, that's a big trouble. Oh, Nachum says using acronyms to bring up phrases quickly can be a lifesaver, like IDK equals I don't know, or typing a keyword to bring up the phrase. Valerie asked what the flag was. Trinity, can you drop the name of that again?
Yeah, Luxafor.
Oh, and then Gary says, I think the biggest challenge is anticipating laughter and applause when you use a recorded speech. That's a great one.
So Luxafor is the flag, and you can get them on the Luxafor website. You can get them on Best Buy. You can get them on Amazon. And we have a program that actually can work with your communication device to be able to program these guys to be different colors. So I had one of my pals ended up in the hospital, and his doctors were always over talking him when he was on his vent. And so we put a little guide on the back of the computer that said, like, if it's yellow, this is what it means. If it's green, this is what it means. So anybody who came to talk to him knew exactly, what the communication was about. So if you need help getting this Luxafor flag programmed, reach out to us, and we're happy to help with that. John said a Bluetooth speaker can help with volume. Absolutely. Absolutely. Karina, thank you for dropping the Luxafor flag link. I appreciate it. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions or any tricks or tips they'd like to share? I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat right now. This is our YouTube channel. So if you did not get a chance to grab one of the links earlier on about the different trainings, if you wanted to look, for example, at intonation or 11 Labs AI voices, please feel free to jump onto our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or you need more time to be able to respond, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to drop that in the chat. We are always here to help. Remember, our services are always free. We're happy to help. If you are joining us on our YouTube channel right now, we are going to stop the recording and say thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. And we have a lot of videos on there, so please join us. I am going to stop our recording right now. And you have our team here. So if you have any other technology questions, we got like 4 minutes or so.